Hey, I'm Paeter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Essential Issues Weekly, where I talk about DC Comics 1 week after their release on the Ultra tier of the DC Universe Infinite subscription service. In each installment, I pick an assortment of comics to talk about as a DC fan, while also exploring what, if anything, they have to say about the essential issues of real life. Now, warning, full spoilers for everything I talk about. This is your first and only warning that many spoilers lie ahead. Right now, we're taking a look at comics originally released to the Ultra tier on August 28th, 2023. And first from that group, I've chosen The Adventures of Superman John Kent number 6, which turns out to be the last issue in this series, originally published August 1st, 2023. In this issue, John resolves to stop Injustice World's Superman from executing Batman and Harley Quinn. He first talks Barry into standing down, takes out Hawkgirl, takes out Hal Jordan, even gets Wonder Woman out of the picture, and makes an alliance with Damian Wayne. Also, he can have this moment where he faces Superman. But when he faces Superman unobstructed, Superman breaks the arm of the parallel universe version of John's boyfriend right in front of him, which seems initially to set John off, charging at him until at the last second he embraces Injustice Superman in a compassionate hug. Now, I like the idea, but the execution felt unearned. I want to see John's turmoil, his inner turmoil in thought bubbles. I mean, you could slow down time with someone moving at super speed and give us narration that gives us a better glimpse into what's going on in his mind. Instead, it just feels like an overly quick bait and switch that makes the moment feel too easy. Too easily arrived at. Ultimately, this show of compassion does not move Injustice Superman enough to change his path, and John gets teleported back to his own Earth. The issue ends with a note saying that John's adventures will continue in something called Beast World this November. I don't know if that's an ongoing series or an event. We'll just have to wait and see. This was not promoted as a mini-series, so it appears that this book has been canceled. Either way, I'm fine with that. I was enjoying this book more than I thought I would, but ultimately I still would like John to be de-aged. And I think in order for that to happen, this iteration of John is just going to have to fail commercially. But I'm glad this didn't end on a cliffhanger because, like I said, I have found this story interesting and found elements of John and his story likable. So I like this little arc here. I'm curious what's going to become of John in the future, though. Is he going to be sidelined? Is DC regretting aging him up behind closed doors? Of course, almost integral to aging him up was also making him a bisexual character. So there's just some interesting, not just decisions, but probably some political views going on behind the scenes that are being, no doubt, talked about. John is, I think, likely to make a very interesting behind-the-scenes story that we might hear about in 20 to 30 years when those in the know feel safe about opening up about what was going on behind the scenes. But in the meantime, I'm still open to what they could do with this grown-up version of John. I just really, really would prefer that they de-age him instead. Either way, I'm going to be leaning forward in curiosity for this Beast World thing that comes in November. Next up is Justice Society of America number 5, published July 4th, 2023. This has the final showdown with Per Degaton, which felt overly simplistic to me, but I still appreciated how Jeff Johns is working overtime to just get the JSA up and running quickly and introduce or reintroduce this version of Huntress Helena Wayne from the future, who is now stranded in the present with her future having been erased. So now she's not the Earth 2 Helena Wayne. She's not from like the golden age or the past of this world. She is this living paradox that has no kind of timeline of her own to return to anymore. And I think that's an interesting idea with lots of potential character stuff that could happen between her and Bruce in the future of this comic and elsewhere in the DC universe, because of course she has feelings about him being her dad, but he doesn't have those feelings to return to her. I mean, that fits very much in the mold of those who have kind of been under Bruce and kind of have seen him as a father figure, that like they are warmer to him than he is to them. And so I could see her in her own unique way joining the supporting cast of the Bat family, and some interesting things coming from that. The final page brings Judy Garrick on the scene, Jay Garrick's long-lost daughter, and I like this for multiple reasons. First, with Alan Scott being retconned to be gay, I'm glad that they seem to be doubling down on a traditional family elsewhere among the JSA, and Judy is just such a perfect name for the time period that she comes from. Of course, it evokes Judy Garland to me, and it's just a wonderful choice for a name for that time period. I'm interested in seeing what her personality is going to be like as kind of this woman or girl out of time. The tease for the next issue reads, Judy Garrick, Our Man, using the logo of the android Our Man from the future, which they've kind of brought back now, which could be very interesting, I think, and Dawn of DC, with Stargirl in the picture as well on this splash page at the end. This feels like a setup for maybe a possible mix of 2000s era JSA members and new members, and I'm really ready for that. But hopefully the pacing will improve and feel more like the Jeff Johns JSA of, back in the early to mid 2000s. This whole story, while it had some cool things in it, felt kind of like a rushed effort to get the JSA up and running again. Now that they're back, I hope that things can breathe a little bit more and play to the strengths of a writer like Jeff Johns, who very often focuses on character. But even better would be if they give the book to Gail Simone. I don't know if she has any interest in writing JSA, but I would love a JSA book written by Gail Simone. Next up, City Boy, number 3, August 1st, 2023. Superman arrives on the scene as he did near the end of last issue and predictably provides some tempering guidance to the very angry City Boy. Superman can't stop, though, the rampaging embodiment of Metropolis. So instead, he helps City Boy confront the darkness that's inside of him as a result of the wounds from his past. Although Superman tells Cameron he's not a monster, Cameron really feels like one. And he's also, at the same time, hyper-aware of the evil in everyone else because his powers give him a connection to the city and the people who inhabit it. So he has this hyper-awareness of really the brokenness of humanity. So it's a great, really kind of refreshing moment when Superman says, "No one's a monster and no one's perfect. We're all just doing our best." And Cameron looks at him silently for a second and then responds, "No, we aren't." And goes on to say most people aren't even coming close to doing their best. They don't have to worry about any of this, meaning basically the intense stuff that Cameron is having to worry about. They're just living their lives, he says. No one else has to care. Well, why don't they have to care? Because unlike Cameron, the average person in this world is not in a situation where they are incentivized to care by intense circumstances, like what Cameron is experiencing. This writing acknowledges really a damning truth about humanity, that not only do we live far less morally than we should, we even live far less morally than we very well could. Like Superman does with his statement about people, we also tend to give ourselves more credit than we should, thinking or saying to ourselves and each other, well, I'm doing my best. Well, you're doing your best. We're doing our best. But in truth, we aren't doing near our best. Cameron is right. Because our best would hurt a whole lot more. It would stretch us and be so much more painful. Personally, just by default, I know that I tend to rule out living virtuously enough for it to hurt me, until maybe I'm hurting already. I do not explore my limits unless I'm forced to. And I think that's what Cameron is experiencing here. His circumstances have forced him to do his best just to get by. But once we are getting by enough for ourselves, we stop pursuing our best. We need a reason to really push ourselves, to really enter into discomfort and even pain, to bring all that we really have to this life. And Superman can't quite give Cameron a reason why he or others should care. He just conveniently recognizes that Cameron probably does care deep down inside for reasons of his own, but those reasons are fundamental. And so I'm going to be watching to see if Cameron's reason for caring, which I assume they're kind of leading us to some kind of an arc where he's going to develop into some kind of a hero, maybe not as gleaming as Superman, but some kind of a guy who wants to do well. I mean, by the end of this issue, he is kind of quietly, almost grudgingly helping out helping citizens in the aftermath of some of the destruction of Metropolis. So I think they're taking him on this kind of arc, but I'm going to be watching to see, okay, Cameron, what's your reason for caring? Because that's really foundational. The tease for the next issue of City Boy is that he's going to Bloodhaven, which confirms, I think, my hopes that this book is going to involve him touring, basically, the fictional cities and probably non-fictional cities of the DC universe while exploring their character. I think there's so much interesting stuff potentially to explore about Cameron and his journey, and also just human nature in general, based on what I'm seeing so far. So I'm very interested in City Boy going forward. Finally, Steelworks number 3 came out August 1st, 2023. I'm probably done with this book. The art and the story are just a bit too simplistic for me, but a key thematic moment that stood out is John Henry's naive view on human conflict. He is preparing to make an unlimited source of energy available to everyone in the world, meaning fuel and electricity will just be free for everyone everywhere. And in light of this, he says, if this is taken to its natural conclusions, our world won't look anything like it is today. In as little as a few short weeks, we won't recognize anything. The only thing that will be familiar is the essence of who we are. Just think, a world with no wars, no conflicts, no famine, nothing to fight over. But I'm convinced that once we don't need to struggle for survival resources, we'll fight over things that energy can't produce, like land, or sex, or friendships, or intellectual rights. The economy will adjust. We'll still need money for non-essentials. And if the internet is any indicator, people can get plenty riled up and even violent over things that are not essential to our survival. So I'm kind of like wondering, does this book strike me as leaning into philosophy enough that they're actually going to let this play out? Are they going to let John give this energy to the world and then we'll see that he's wrong? Or is this actually the view of the writer, that these things there would be no conflict if, energy was infinitely available to everyone, in which case, by the end of the story, there'll be some reason for this energy not to be given to the world. I would love the former. I think that would result in so much more interesting and complex storytelling and examination of the human condition. But I think more than likely, something will just happen so that this energy source can't be given to the world. So maybe I'll kind of scan Steelworks number 4, but otherwise I think I'm pretty much losing interest in this book. And those are all of my thoughts on comic books for now. As always, I'd love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Remember to check out christiangeekcentral.com for tons more content. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Hey guys, Paeter Franson here. Want to play games to save lives? Then join me again this year for Game Save, our annual charity fundraising event in support of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, whose compassionate care and cutting-edge research has been saving the lives of children all over the world for decades. Joining the Game Save team only requires a willingness to ask friends and family to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Team members also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising, like a special game night at your home or church, or like me, you can do a crazy 24-hour video game marathon. Now, I'm theming my fundraising around video games, but you can also use tabletop games if you want. What you do to raise funds is entirely up to you, but by joining the Game Save team, you can get support and encouragement from myself and other team members and have more attention drawn to your fundraising efforts. You can get more information about the origins and heart behind Game Save itself at gamesave.christiangeekcentral.com. To join the team, make an account at tiltify.com, then click on the link below and click Support Campaign. After that, follow the instructions to create your own personal campaign in support of the CGC Team campaign. To help your donors avoid confusion, I recommend using your name and the phrase CGC Game Save 23 as the name of your individual campaign. After that, as team leader beginning in October, I provide team members with weekly tips and resources to make your fundraising as fun, easy, and effective as possible. October is going to be our main push for fundraising, capping things off with my annual 24-hour video gaming live stream on November 4th, although you are welcome to continue fundraising until the end of November 30th, when our official final total will be tallied. If you have any questions before or after signing up, you can reach me anytime at paeter@spiritblade.com. christiangeekcentral.com. I'm happy to help, and I hope that you'll consider being a part of this with me. I can't wait to get started. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.